Before we start this video, just a quick look at the history of wholesale electricity prices in the UK, and they're pretty similar, as you can see, to gas prices here. This is going back to 2016-17. As you can see, it was as low as £35 per megawatt hour and as high as £49 per megawatt hour. So looking at the shape of the graph, let's say an average of about £45 per megawatt hour for the year. The wholesale prices are, of course, what our suppliers buy the electricity in at. They're not the prices to us, but they are directly linked to the prices to us. Well, that was a 2017 price. To update that to 2021, the year I'm going to take as a base price, you would add 7.2% for inflation. That makes it £48 something, but I'm going to round it up to £50. And this is just, if you like, a base figure to move forward on. The exact amount at this point doesn't really matter. But let's take it as £50 before the madness of inflation caused by fuel crisis, created by Western governments and the net zero policy, and added to with an extra spin by the Ukraine war, but would have been totally avoidable had we had the right policies of fracking and nuclear years ago. And for the record, US prices were about half of the UK prices in 2017. So with that short bit of history out the way, let's start the video. UK, December 2022. Britain grinds to a halt with snowstorms. The snow, our children were told, they may never see again. But more important than seeing snow again is the real cost of this, because there's a high over Britain, just as I predicted in previous videos. And when you get a high over Britain, you don't get the wind. So wind dropped on that day to 3% of the total energy supply. And we had to buy an energy. And the day-ahead price for the energy was £675 per megawatt hour. That, compared to the normal price of about £50 per megawatt hour, is 13.5 times the normal price we pay. And that's for the price in effect for tomorrow's gas. But it gets worse than that, much worse than that, because at peak times between 5 and 6, when we really need that peak power supply, we were paying £2,586 per megawatt hour instead of 50. That's nearly 52 times the normal price, purely because the wind is intermittent. You are being lied to. The truth is that renewables are very expensive. Why so expensive? Reason one. You have to build a megawatt of gas energy for every megawatt of wind energy to allow for the times when the wind does not blow or just is low. More wind farms make this problem worse, not better. Reason two. In very high winds, wind turbines have to be shut off to avoid damage. More wind farms make this problem worse, not better. Reason three. When the wind is not wanted. Overnight, when there's a lower power demand and we do not need all the electricity that wind farms produce, we still have to pay wind farms to shut down, or even pay for the power to be given away. In some cases, almost 50% of the time, we pay for them not to produce the power. More wind farms make this problem worse, not better. Reason four. When the wind is too low and it's hot. This year, we had to pay £9,724.54 per megawatt during the summer hot spell to import energy because the high over the UK and Europe dropped the wind to almost nothing. This is almost 200 times our base price. More wind farms make this problem worse, not better. Reason 5. Causes grid inefficiency. Having to pander around the vagrancies of too little energy when it is needed and too much when it is not needed means that other power stations have to frequently run at inefficient levels. There is a great cost to this. More wind farms make this problem worse, not better. What follows is a table of the cost per kilowatt hour. That's to a household for every country in the world, in order from the lowest to the highest. That's right, we have the most expensive electricity in the world, with a few exceptions. Now those exceptions are places in Europe like Belgium, Denmark, Germany. So let's look at those. Okay, which country has the most wind power per head of population than anyone else in Europe? And the answer is Denmark. Which country has the most expensive electricity in the world? And the answer is Denmark. Okay, let's take the next country. Which is the next country for the most wind power per head of population in Europe? And the answer is Germany. And which is the next most expensive electricity in the world? And the answer is Germany. And going for the hat trick, let's go to the country with the third most expensive electricity in the world. That is Belgium, and that happens to be the one with the third most wind power per head of population. So with the UK included, the top 4 countries in the world with the most wind power in that order are the ones with the most expensive electricity in the same order. There is direct correlation between the amount of wind power that a country has per head and the cost of electricity. It is a total fallacy that wind power is cheap. The truth is, for the many reasons I've explained, it is much more expensive. We have in the UK truly entered the world of the Mad Hatter. Our steel industry is having to close down because it simply can't afford to make steel with these energy prices. We're even told that we can't start our engines to heat up our windscreens and clear the ice in this cold spell, because to do so would damage the environment. Wind farms still being paid not to give us power. You could not make up the madness of this, but the propaganda continues. The logic of all this is so simple, but all our government leaders, all our opposition leaders, all the mainstream parties, they all want more wind farms. They're all bonkers. A child can understand the logic here, but it seems they can't. There's no means by which you can store a surplus wind energy to make up for these deficits. I have covered that in the other video, which is called When the Wind Stops, episode 7, Energy Storage Delusions. Just like a child having made a complete mess of things, the government are paying or subsidising until March 23 our electricity bills. They're hiding us from the real brutal truth. But after that, there is no guarantee. And I know already they can't let it rip. People can't afford to pay maybe 5 or 6 times the cost of electricity. So it's affecting industry, it's affecting commerce, it's affecting our own economy. But our leaders still plough on with the idea of huge wind farms offshore and onshore. And they're doing that without building the gas capacity. They stop fracking, but then they have to buy frack gas in at twice the price we could supply it from the USA. And in doing so, of course, in their world, though it doesn't bother me, I want more CO2, in their world they increase the CO2 by shipping it, compressing it, taking it across the oceans, uncompressing it, etc., to suppliers in the UK. It is bonkers even on their own terms. They even have the audacity to say that fossil fuels are too expensive and renewables are cheaper. They've been forcing fossil fuels off the market. Developers can't get the loans from banks. HSBC have now banned all investments in fossil fuels. The governments have said we don't want the gas. The governments that did away with gas storage are now scrambling to get it back. It is total madness. It can't be accepted by any rational person, and we the people really have to start voting only for those parties that have a sane energy policy. If we don't vote, we are ignoring history and giving away the future. Looking at the long-term history of gas prices in the UK, you can see the effect of the Ukrainian war here. However, even before this, there were fluctuations of up to 300%, with gas prices trebling and then easing off. It wasn't a steady market. The low prices prior to the Russian war were caused by the cheap fracking gas from America. That cheap fracking gas really did lower the prices of energy worldwide. The lesson here is we have to be independent on our energy supplies. And we're doing anything but that. We're doing the complete opposite, because the more wind farms we have, the more we need the gas. The very gas we are refusing to extract. And further, the fact that we are trying to use wind as a base load instead of things like nuclear or coal is sheer madness. Wind is not a reliable form of energy that can be used for 24-hour baseload. Look at this chart here with some look-ahead prices as far as just January. Look at the rise in electricity prices. These are 5 to 6 times the base price. You are being currently protected from this by the government, but that is just increasing the debt. The future is looking absolutely terrible. And all because our governments, our politicians, have pursued a stupid net zero policy that has next to no effect on CO2 levels in any event, because energy is at the very root of our prosperity and our survival. It's the fossil fuel energy in the world that's reduced poverty and given us the standard of living we have today. The fear of CO2, plant food, is absolutely ridiculous. It is wrong, and you've got to stop giving in to the scare tactics of governments so they can control you in all sorts of minute ways, including locking you down into neighbourhoods. This is being put into a cage. And what for? Under this climate alarmism, which is not true. There is no climate crisis, and many leading physicists and scientists back me up on that. But this is how bonkers the current policy is, and the people simply have to rise up and stop this madness. Vote these people out who believe in this madness and support sanity. I don't belong to any political party, and nor do I plan ever to belong to one, but I do want to make sure whoever I vote for is going to support a sane energy policy.